because you broke up the Beatles, Steve.
I did not do no such thing. Matt went and got himself another job of some sort. That broke. It's almost like
You broke
it's
up
almost
the Beatles,
broke.
Steve. Now I have to go and do 2 shows.
No, it's Matt's Yoko Ono job.
Here we go. Good evening, and welcome to the Fortean Slip. Which episode is this? God damn it, I wasn't prepared this week. 114, I believe. 114. Yes, you are correct, Steve. This is
I get it right once in a while.
Where the fuck do we go from here episode. For those of you who have been paying attention and listening, you have not really heard a lot of Matt Knapp on the show.
He's been napping.
Well, see, the problem is, and I've relayed this to people many, many times, like, I don't just sit around, and Steve doesn't just sit around, and Matt just doesn't sit around, and we don't, do podcasts. We all have lives, we all have jobs, we all have things that we have to do that can obviously put a damper in our time constraints. Concessions have to be made. Things have to be reworked. Different days have to be done. Like, I'd love to be able to do the show on the same fucking day every week, but that doesn't work out either. And at this point, it is what it is. I mean, Matt's got an obligation that keeps him until a certain time. Steve's curfew doesn't allow him to go past a certain time. Although, and this is just me beating you up for a second, Steve, before you didn't have an issue with staying up late.
Yeah, and I almost didn't have a job, too.
Well, no, I mean, like, recently. Before the change.
Yeah, but I never... No, that's not true. Before the change? Because your recording times changed. Mine didn't. Oh, yeah,
So, hey, I'm dealing it out wherever it is tonight, Steve. Don't feel bad. Right. And it goes, hey, listen, I mean, my time constraints have changed too. Like, I have a job that's, my nights that I work are different every week. I never have the same set schedule. So I can't plan on a fucking specific night. But, outside of that, I try to make myself available as much as possible because it's my thing. Now, and like I relayed earlier, this is... I was talking with Matt earlier, and I don't think he would give a shit that I say this, This doesn't make him any money. And he has to take care of himself. He has to take care of his shit. He's, like I said, we've all got lives, we've all got shit we gotta do. Now, does this mean that Matt's gonna be done doing the fucking Fortean Slip? I don't know as it's gonna be that far. Like, I definitely would think he would still do shows with me.
Fuck it, Matt's dead to me. Fuck him. He's dead to me now.
You're a prick. But I'm open to doing it. However, it gets so frustrating and trying to fucking keep the fucking boat afloat because, I mean, hey, it's my fucking baby. Like, this is something I fucking nurtured it because it isn't just this. Like, it's the stories, it's the blog, it's the fucking British invasion with Richard. I do all this different shit that I'm just constantly trying to fucking bucket out water.
What the hell happened there?
What do you mean, what happened?
I don't know, something weird went on with your audio there for a second.
No, I paused because I couldn't think of what to say for a second. So,
well, that's what happened then.
Frustration. That's what happened. So, like I said, I don't think we're gonna be saying fucking sayonara to Matt. There's like nothing going on. Like, I think the world of the guy. I just know that he's got a lot of obligations as far as his jobs, like the things that actually make him fucking money. You know, not this, which is just three guys bullshitting. So
I wish it made money.
I mean, if it did, it'd be great. It makes something. It doesn't, like, I've been honest about this from the beginning. It does make something. It doesn't make a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the money structure. I will say this: the way that they pay you on YouTube has changed dramatically. And it used to be that you made no money on the podcast. We'd make fucking dick. Or I'd make dick, I should say. You know, the people who make podcasts on and put them on YouTube and try to monetize them. But now, and the short stuff would make a lot more money. Now it's changed for some reason. I don't know, but
I think I've got to the bottom of why it's changed, and it may sound silly, but YouTube is trying to be more like, you know, Netflix and Hulu and things of that nature. And so the longer shows now are more attractive to that style of service. You know what I'm saying?
well,
So with the whole YouTube Red thing going on,
and they changed how they look at it, because now the watch time is more important than your views.
mm-hmm.
So and that's why the revenue on the podcast have gone up. So I mean, while it has gone up, it's still not like it didn't go up to like a lot by any stretch of the imagination.
You won't be retiring this year, Chris?
No. But you know, hey, it is a source of income, although not, like I said, not very much. I make far more money, honestly, on the blog, or have. Right now, it's kind of, but you know, things are picking up, and I've relayed to many people recently, you know, to the fans, the people who listen to this show, who enjoy this show, who love this show, and I know that there are those people out there. There's not that many of them. I accept that, but they are out there, and they listen every fucking time we post one, and they're right there. If you want this thing to do well, share it. Share it everywhere. I know I say that all the time. I know I stress it all the time. I know it might sound fucking greedy. But if you like what you see, you support it. You know, if you want to go see a band in concert, you pay the fucking ticket price. I'm not asking anybody to spend any money. I'm just asking people to spend a little bit of time supporting the fucking shit. And
Sounds reasonable.
Like if I want to support something, I support it. I go out and I spend the money on it, or I go out and I put the time into it. Obviously, I support this fucking program. I put tons of time into it, and I put tons of time into promoting everything, and you know, setting everything up and putting everything together. And it's a fucking labor.
And I show up and talk for a few minutes and go.
And then leave. And that's your fucking input.
That's my contribution.
Yeah. So, like I said, where do we go from here? I'd love to tell you that I can work it all out, and you know, Steve and Matt and I can still do the show all together. At this point in time, it just doesn't look totally feasible. Like, we might be able to do it on occasion on like a Saturday, or possibly a Friday night if I have that off. Yeah, we'll see. But as far as a regular every week fucking thing, having him, it's just going to be too rough for him, and I don't blame him at all. No, I don't even blame him. It's a situation where we have shit that we have to take care of that's far more fucking important than this. And as much as I love this, and as much as, Matt enjoys doing it, and as much as Steve enjoys doing it, there's other shit. So
family shit and providing for your family is always going to trump, a silly little podcast. So, and that's how I look at it too. If it came between me earning a living for my family and doing this show, I'd have to, take the other route. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be happy about it. So I understand completely.
Yeah, so it is what it is. As I don't know what I'm going to do as far as trying to figure it out and do everything, but I will keep you posted. Yay. On that big
Yippee.
Downer fucking note. What'd you want to talk about tonight, Steve? Because I really didn't give a shit.
Well, I wanted to do some false flag shit. I've been studying the JFK assassination like crazy. I can't get my mind off of it, so I have to listen to it, 8 to 10 hours to 12 hours a day.
We're gonna go to the moon and do all those other things.
Why am I? It was actually the last two were closer together. So it was like boom, boom, boom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, anyway, we won't get into the, according to a lot of witnesses, it was that way. Now, according to the Warren Commission, it wasn't so much. But anyway, we won't get into the whole JFK thing tonight, but in studying that, and you were familiar with the Northwoods operation. I don't know what they actually called it. I know it's called the Northwoods documents, and they came up, in my search for stuff on the JFK assassination, because a lot of people think the CIA and all that bullshit was involved, and I don't know that yet because I haven't done that, sort of studying. But we hear about false flags all the fucking time, like 9/11 was a false flag.
Listen, Steve, it's a false flag operation.
So
Americans died, Steve. It's the Bilderberger Group.
So I thought, there's false flags, maybe, sort of, kind of, and I'm familiar with, the government lying to us. Obviously, the whole MK Ultra bullshit, and and a bunch of other things that went on.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
I don't know if that's John or is that Ted. It kind of sounds more like Ted.
I don't know.
Say Chappaquiddick.
Chappaquiddick?
No, in the voice. Because then I can determine. See. So anyway, back on these documents actually came out the 13th of March, 1962. So this is well before, a year and a half before Kennedy was assassinated. And this was the Joint Chiefs of Staff actually put this document out. And it was top secret, obviously. But they wanted, justification for invading Cuba at the time because Fidel Castro had just overthrown Batista. I think that's his name, Batista. And his regime, and, the U.S. government wasn't all that happy about it. And they had the whole Bay of Pigs bullshit and going on and all that. But this was reasons to attack Cuba. Like false reasons. We were going to basically false flag operations, and they called them, what did they call them? Let me see if I can get the right word. The Joint Chiefs of Staff are trying to pretext. That's what they call them, pretexts. We call them false flags now, but they call them pretexts. So what they were going to do was make shit up and then provoke Cuba to attack us, obviously on their land in Cuba. So it was part of, I believe, Operation Mongoose at the time. You can look that up. There's a whole shitload of shit going on with Operation Mongoose. But the reasons that they gave, or the pretext that they gave, they started out fairly, kind of humorous. So what they wanted to establish a credible attack. So, in other words, we could attack Cuba, quote unquote, in a credible way. So the first one that they had was to start rumors using clandestine radio. In other words, they would have, I'm guessing, Cuban nationals who were sympathetic to, the U.S. get on radio and start rumors about...
Ladies and gentlemen and all the ships at sea.
Then the second one was to land friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence, quote unquote, to stage an attack on a base. So they wanted, Cubans who were friendly to us to actually attack us. In other words, it was a fake attack. So they would these friendly Cubans.
A facade, if you will, Steve. A false front.
Well, yeah, and this is where the false flag idea comes from, these things. So literally, they would get a bunch of Cubans who were sympathetic to us and have them
get a bunch of Cubans, sit around and smoke them.
Well, there was a lot in Miami, Texas, New Orleans, New York City. There were a lot of
cocaine dealers, Steve.
Yes, Cuban exiles who were
Scarface
against Castro. So they were
say hello to my little friend.
Anti-Castro Cuban exiles. And actually, aside from like Miami, I think New Orleans was one of the biggest places where those people were, and that goes into the whole Oswald and his his Cuban thing. But
we need a montage, Steve. We need a Fortean Slip 80s montage. Like I remember when Matt was here.
Okay. Number 3, they wanted to capture friendly Cubans. In other words, a Cuban who was posing as non-friendly, but a friendly Cuban, saboteurs inside their base. And this is all done at Guantanamo, by the way. So Guantanamo's been around for a long time as a U.S. military base before, obviously.
Son, we live in a world with walls, and men have to stand on those walls. Who's going to do it? You, Steve?
So they were going to make fake Cubans. Well, they were real Cubans, but they were friendly to us. Pretend to be saboteurs and invade our base down there. All this, so then that's just the third thing. This is also that they could, have a legitimate, quote unquote, reason to attack Cuba or, Castro.
I'd like to order a code red on you.
Okay, and what would the code red be?
Oh my fucking God.
That's a brand of Mountain Dew, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Code red I know. Mm-hmm. I heard of a Code Adam.
Go with it,
gets
Steve.
Lost in a grocery store.
Fucking go with it. Yeah.
I had to call a Code Adam.
For those of you at home who are giggling your ass off, this is the ignorant pop culture Steve. Thank you.
I'm more into history and, the way it relates to real life things instead of old movies and shit.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, that's a lie. Number 4, they wanted to start riots near the base's main gate. And all these were friendly Cubans that are friendly to the U.S. Now, I don't think starting riots would actually get them very far in waging an attack on Cuba, but at least that was one of the other things.
Listen, Steve, as we've learned in recent times, it's not a riot. It's just, people expressing themselves and getting a free TV.
Oh, yes.
Or two.
Yeah. Freedom of speech and religion and the pursuit of happiness type of thing.
Sure.
Right? Okay.
Why not?
So there is no such thing as riots anymore. So if you want to, blow up a police car during this thing or shoot somebody, that's all part of the... What are we gonna call them? They're not riots.
It's all part of the plan.
Yes, it's all part of the plan. Here's where it gets.
Did I ever tell you how I got these scars, Steve?
No, you didn't. No, that must be a movie reference.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not at all.
Anyway, you're ruining my show, Chris.
Your show.
Well, I picked the topic today.
Can I go have a smoke then?
The last time I picked the topic, you went to the bathroom and shit.
Hey.
Well, you probably did shit.
No, I just took a piss, actually, because I really had to go.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, here's where it starts getting real. They were actually thinking about blowing up ammunition inside their own base and blaming it on Cuba. Then number 6 was burn aircraft on the base. And here's a cool one. Number 7, lob mortar shells from outside of the base into the base. Some damage, obviously they have to make some damage to the base so that, it looks real. So those 3 things, just those 3 things alone are pretty fucking shitty. You're doing this to yourself, remember, so that, you can blame it on Cuba.
Why not?
Blow up ammunition, burn aircraft, and lob mortar shells inside the base.
Because you see, Steve, the politicians that are making these decisions, or the people in power that are making these decisions, aren't going to be the people in the situation getting fucking shot at or blown up to make this fucking thing happen. So they don't give a shit.
Well, this just goes to the idea that, people at this time in 63 or 62 when this came out. Well, it didn't come out, obviously. It was classified, but people still trusted the fucking government. And so they would never have thought that, now we've learned now that, the government's a bunch of fucking lying assholes. But back then, they might have had some ideas, and some people didn't like certain politicians and shit. But they didn't realize that the entirety of the government, and this is the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This wasn't, just your backdoor dealings with some low-level, idea men in the government. This was the fucking Joint Chiefs of Staff who came up with this plan, So it was pretty fucking, outrageous at the time for the American public.
It extended into the highest levels of government.
Well, it did.
Men of power.
And there's evidence that some of these things actually, have gone on. Obviously, when you get to the Vietnam War, I think the Gulf of Tonkin, is that the one that was pretty much staged, fake? The Bay of Pigs was a staged thing, and it was done in Cuba. It was done to provoke, military action. So it's not too far-fetched to believe that the government's going to do this shit. So anyway, number 8.
Oh, sorry.
You haven't played that in a long time.
Oh, sorry.
It didn't come over very well, so you might have to do it again sometime, during the show.
In the future.
Number 8 was to capture assault teams approaching from the sea or vicinity of Guantanamo City. What the hell was that? That was more friendly, Cubans. Capture militia groups which storm the base. Sabotage ships in the harbor.
Handsome, good squatcher. You're like number 1 in the world.
I didn't want you to forget it, Steve. You're doing a great job tonight.
Sabotage the ships in the harbor, our ships, fake Cubans sabotaging our ships in the harbor, starting
fake Cubans.
Fires.
They never smoke as well as real Cubans, Steve.
They were real Cubans, but they were sympathetic to the U.S. apparently. They wanted to use naphthalene. I've been told that's pretty nasty shit. Number 11. Now this is where it gets real fun. They wanted to actually sink a ship in the harbor and conduct fake mock funerals for the victims.
Yeah, buddy.
And here's how they were going to go about that. They wanted to, the United States would respond by executing offensive operations to secure supplies, destroying artillery and mortar emplacements, which threatened the base. They wanted to commence large-scale United States military operations. And then they wanted to stage a quote-unquote remember the Maine incident. And it could be arranged in several forms. They could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba.
I'm gonna start the same type of thing, Steve. I'm gonna call it "Remember the Matt Incident."
They could. These are just ideas.
It's really just a false flag operation, people. This whole Matt thing, it's a misdirection. It's just a complete misdirection. I'm like David Copperfield over here, just fucking pulling strings. Fucking pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
They could. Anyway, they wanted to blow up.
Steve really wants to get a brain.
Bay and blame Cuba. I just want to finish reading this document. At this point, the brain can come later. They wanted to blow up a drone or unmanned vessel anywhere in the Cuban waters. Here's where it gets super cool. They could arrange to cause such incident in the vicinity of Havana or Santiago as a spectacular result of a Cuban attack from the air or sea. Anyway, they wanted to actually blow up a fake cruise ship, an American cruise ship, and then have fake, what do you call it? Fake funerals, and it would be all over U.S. TV. So this wasn't as much to get Cuba to attack us. They wanted to fool the American people and into believing that Cuba attacked us. So it was twofold.
The way they wanted to make Cuba out, they wanted to make it out to be like fucking Fantasy Island. Fucking place was great. They had so much shit, they could just do all this fucking crazy shit to attack us. Yeah. Meanwhile,
they wanted to. They were working on developing a communist Cuban terror campaign in Miami and Florida, and even in Washington, D.C. So, have these anti-Castro Cubans who were sympathetic to the United States. They would actually develop a fake terror campaign in Washington, D.C. It says
good old
campaign
fake terror campaigns. They always help, somebody somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's where people get the idea that 9/11 was a fake and some of those other kinds of attacks, because clearly the U.S. has thought about this for years.
The U.S. has done this shit, Steve.
Oh, I know they have. But I'm just saying the most current.
As far as like 9/11, I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a minute.
No, I don't either.
I think that people profited off of it, but I think that there are people that profit off everything that goes bad. There are always people that profit when things go down. When the stock market plummets, there's always people that fucking make money. If you've watched that movie, The Big Short, there were guys that knew that the housing market was going to crash, and they bet against the fucking housing market, and the banks let them do it because they all thought they were crazy.
Right. And that's not a government thing, but that's still the same idea, Yeah,
it's people always profit when shit goes bad. Just because shit's going bad doesn't mean people aren't going to make it. During the Depression, there were still people who fucking had money and were doing shit. Did it suck for a lot of people? Fucking yeah, it did. But somewhere, people were making money.
I just want to read this next paragraph in full, because this tells you how far they were really willing, or at least thinking about going, to cause action from Cuba. This terror campaign that they wanted to wage, it says the terror campaign could be pointed at Cuban refugees seeking haven in the United States. We could sink a boatload of Cubans en route to Florida. In parentheses, it says real or simulated. In other words, they would have gone as far to kill real people to do this, before, just to provoke Castro into reaction. It says we could foster attempts on lives of Cuban refugees in the United States, even to the extent of wounding them in instances, and make it widely publicized. They wanted to explode a few plastic bombs in carefully chosen spots. The arrest of Cuban agents and the release of prepared documents substantiating Cuban involvement would also be helpful in projecting the idea of an irresponsible Cuban government. They were willing, Chris, to actually fucking take innocent people's lives just to get Cuba to attack, and that's how far this thing was willing to go.
And you think that's like really outside the box?
No, but
like they make decisions like that all the fucking time. We're gonna bomb this fucking place because we know that this guy is there. Well, how many casualties are we gonna have? Well, we're gonna have some casualties. Okay, we weigh it. Boom, bomb gets dropped. People fucking die. Shit happens. But when you're gonna plan some fucking thing that's outside the box like this, people are gonna die. Innocent people are gonna die, and this shit's crazy. And the fact that they even thought about doing this shit is crazy. But they did it.
Yeah,
they did this. They did this type of shit, and it's not. Listen, the government is not this fucking big beautiful thing that just takes care of you, all the time. It's this humongous entity that's all full of people, and people, as we know, are fucking. They're all over the board. You've got people who are psychopaths. You've got people who are fucking narcissists. You got fucking people who are fucking antisocial. You got people who are just plain fucking dickheads. You got people who are greedy. It runs the fucking gamut. And of course, there are going to be people who connive and scheme and plot and do shit. People want to make money, or they want to make their mark on the world, or they want to do something. I don't think it's an inherent thing. I think it's something that's left over from, our survival instinct, that if the bigger and better that we are, the more value that we have, the more money we can make, or the more we can survive. And it's just, I don't know if it's something that we need to accept, that this is just always going to happen, because it's never changed. You point me one fucking moment in history when it's been different. It hasn't.
Nope.
People suck. I hate to break it to everybody, but people fucking suck. And they will fuck everything up. That's, hey, call me the fucking ignorant son of a bitch of the world, but I don't look at, like AI decisions at this point as being all that bad. Because we fuck everything up.
I can't disagree with you there at all.
I don't think on a long enough timeline, I think humanity fails. I honestly think that humanity fails. No one wants to unite.
I agree with you.
Nobody wants to work for the betterment of the whole fucking planet. Nobody wants to do anything to fucking make it worthwhile for everybody. It's fucking, people shit on socialist ideas when, sometimes, I'm not saying that they're all fucking wonderful, but taking care of people isn't all that bad of an idea. As a matter of fact, I was just listening to the Joe Rogan podcast last night, And he was talking about how he changed his opinion on something. And I thought it was pretty fascinating because I had listened to this show where he shit on the guy who brought up the idea. And the guy who brought up the idea, he was like, listen, why don't we just have a base salary for everybody? Like, you get this much money. And you can take care of your fucking food, your whatever, you know, and so on and so forth. And Joe Rogan was like, that's fucking crazy. You can't just give people money. They'll just sit around and do nothing. And he actually, you know, he berated the guy for fucking, oh God, it was like 15, 20 minutes, I think. And, you know, I was listening to the podcast last night, and he actually said he was changing his mind on that idea. Like, he actually did some research. And that you know, giving these people, these low income or poor people especially, this base income would actually make it so that they could, you know, it would drop crime rates, so on and so forth, and that not all people would just sit around and do nothing. People would still work.
I think Norway, is it Norway that does that now? It's like $2,600 a month they give every citizen of working age.
Yeah.
Every citizen.
I don't know if it's there, but and if you look at their roads over there, the fucking roads are amazing. Now, granted, they don't have as much as we have, but they also don't have as many people as we have. You know, we have an amazing amount of tax revenue in this country that just gets wasted. You want to talk about false flag operations? Talk about every fucking bill that passes the fucking Senate and fucking House floor. Every fucking one of them are a false flag operation. Yeah, we did this.
Well, pretty much.
But we also did this, and this.
Well, they know we're not going to sit there and read everything that goes through. You know, there's somebody who might be reading it somewhere, but they've been pretty effective over the years of, you know,
disinformation.
That, and you know, anybody who finds the truth is a conspiracy theorist, and so you know, you lose all your
my favorite misdirection in the world that happened. And this is fucking great, because it's great because fucking Bill was such a horny bastard that he couldn't help but get his dick sucked in the Oval Office. But here it is, 90s, Monica Lewinsky scandal. Fucking Bill Clinton gets sucked off in the White House. Oh my God, he's lying. He's fucking lying. He's saying what's sex. Oh, by the way, the CIA tried to put heroin into the black communities.
Yeah, and that's the way it is.
Welcome to America. Welcome to fucking the greatest show on earth. You want to watch?
Put it past.
You want to watch a great reality show? Just kick back, try not to look at the fact that these people are fucking your lives over.
I wouldn't have put it past Clinton to expose himself. Well, you know what I mean. Bring that out on purpose just to hide what was really going on in the White House at the time, or in the Senate and House and government and CIA and all that bullshit. It happens
at the time, you know? All the fucking time.
Yeah,
it does. You know, and I've said this to people many times before. And until the country, the people as a whole, and I'm not just talking like, you know, a certain percentage. Like, granted, if it was a greater percentage, then yeah. But until the people are willing to unite and say, fuck this, it's never going to happen. And they've got us complacent. We all have our fucking TVs, our computers, our Netflix, our fucking TV shows, our jobs. You know, they've got us. They've got us fucking locked in. Obey, consume, fucking die. That's your life. You know, maybe you get to spend a fucking few happy moments with some people in your family. You pay a shitload of taxes. You get fucked over. You get this horrid fucking election that we have this year. This fucking scariest thing that's ever going to happen in this country. And that's the way it is. Yeah, and I don't, and you know what? I don't blame the people that want to vote for Trump. I don't blame
I get it.
I don't blame them for wanting someone who is not a part of that bullshit system, someone who says fuck all that. I mean, granted, do I fucking believe in his ideals or what he fucking stands for? Absolutely not. But I get it.
Yeah, and I get it too. But like I said, I can't, in good conscience, vote for any of them. I get why people want to vote for Bernie too. I don't get why anybody.
He's like the only. He's like the only one I'd vote for right now. He's the only fucking one I'd vote for.
Even his
Bernie Sanders doesn't care about Bernie Sanders.
I'm not going to vote for Bernie. I'm not going to vote for Hillary, and I'm not going to vote for the reality star. But
Bernie, you want to call him? Fuck my hair.
Out of all of them, even his rivals, every one of them will say that Bernie Sanders believes what he's saying. He is the most honest man probably to ever run for the office of president.
A bird landed on his podium, Steve. A bird.
I know, that's a sign.
The birds love Bernie Sanders.
They feel the burn just like everybody else.
That's right.
I'm not the type who would ever go for, his ideals, because they tend to be a little too socialist for my liking. But I get why people want that. It's never worked in any country in the world, but whatever. And it's too. I'm not trying to like derail the show, take it down that road, but it just goes to show you that this stuff, this false flag bullshit, this misdirection by the government, it goes on all the fucking time, all the time. Well, hell, a lot of people think that Donald Trump's entire campaign, and I'm starting to think this way myself, is more to get Hillary elected than it is, for him to have a campaign. He's met with her.
Yeah, the conspiracy. Yeah, the conspiracy theories.
I'm starting to believe that could be true. I mean, it's so fucking crazy to believe that this man could be the president of the United States. I kind of understand where those people are coming from, and to me, that's kind of like a false flag as well. I mean, it's put up there so that we. I think I don't know, but it's scary to think that sort of thing could happen, and I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility, that he could have run just to get her elected, because who the fuck is really going to vote for him?
There's a lot of people. If she becomes the Democrat, there's a lot of people that want to. I mean, I'm not saying that it's like the majority of America. But, it's this stuff. It's this being lied to by the government over and over and over and over again. This is what it created. This is what it made. They made their own bed. And we made our own bed as the American people. We've allowed this shit to go on for decades.
Oh, God, more than decades, I'm sure.
Well, it's just been decade upon decade upon decade. Like this country is not all that old.
No, but you got to imagine back. We used to be patriots. We used to be. We used to love our country.
But did we? But did we, Steve? A lot of that fucking history. A lot of that history that we know about. Do we really know?
It's written by the winner. History's always written by the winner.
You got to remember, back in Kennedy's time, the media knew all kinds of fucking juicy shit about Kennedy, but they didn't talk about it.
I just on a side note, because you mentioned that, and I wanted to mention it on one of these shows. Donald Kehoe was a former general, I believe, in the military, and he was working for True magazine back in the 40s and 50s, and after his military service was ended, and he started looking into the UFO shit. And he uncovered a bunch of stuff. He was like the first big UFO researcher and believed that they were extraterrestrial and all that stuff. Anyway, that's a side note. The real thing that I got out of his book, UFOs Are Real, because I just listened to that a couple weeks ago, is he was convinced that if anything he found was a national security issue, he had absolutely no problems. All the government officials he were talking to, if they told him, no, that's a national security issue, don't publish it, he wouldn't have published it. Zero. He wouldn't even ask questions, and that's the way the media was and likely still is today.
Well, nowadays it's more of a
ask the questions.
It's a way. The media is a way to work things nowadays, because if there's a bigger story, you can do shit and have shit happen because there's a bigger story going on. It's
Right.
It's that sort of thing. So I guess it's kind of a game of chess in a way, using the media. But it's like Game of fucking Thrones, man. Fucking.
I can't remember who said it, but back, in Kennedy's time and prior to that, there was a big politician or CIA guy or something, and he said, Time Magazine is our biggest ally, that kind of thing. So it was like, they knew that they could manipulate the press, and that the press would, be willing to go right along with it.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was.
That's the way it was, the way it is, and the way it should be.
Anyway, one more thing I wanted to say about this particular false flag operation, which...
We leave you this Sunday morning with the sound of Steve taking a dump.
They were going to go so far as to actually send up a passenger airplane full of people, real people, with manifests and everything, all fake identities, land it somewhere in a clandestine location, and have another airplane painted with the exact tail number, exact same airplane, and then shoot it down and blame it on Cuba. So, we've heard reports that those sorts of things may or may not have happened. What was that flight that disappeared not that long ago that we talked about quite a bit?
Oh, the Malaysian flight.
A lot of people thought that was that sort of thing. So these things, scary fucking shit. And this was way back in the 60s and probably many years prior to that even.
Like I said earlier on, Steve, people suck.
We hear all these things about shadow government and false flag operations. Well, these things are real. These things did and probably continue to happen.
No, actually, I want to clarify on that one. It isn't that all people suck. Like, there's just a portion of the population that is always going to suck.
I suck.
And they're going to fuck shit up for people.
Yeah. If you want to, really get into how bad things got, and this is just before the Kennedy assassination anyway, look into... what the CIA was actually doing at that time and why Alan Dulles got fired and all that sort of shit. They didn't give a flying fuck who the president was. They were going to do it anyway. And that's what ended up, if there was a conspiracy, probably is what ended up getting Kennedy killed. But if not, then, there's a lot of evidence that there was, but we won't go there tonight because that's not the point of this show. But just assume.
What is the point of this show, Steve?
Well, it's the false flag show.
Oh.
But assume that they do. Things like this do happen. This is just one shred of proof that, yeah, they could have killed a president if they wanted to and blamed it on whoever the fuck they wanted to, because that's what they did back in those days and still today, I'm sure. So, there were so many assassination plots against a lot of different people. I forget how many they had against Castro himself. And this was all mostly behind whoever was president at the time's back. So this shit it gets to be really fucking scary when you really get into it. This is just a tiny, 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 tiny little piece of the big puzzle, and it's one of the more scary ones that I found. But even more scary is when you get into the CIA and what they did, you know, pretty much to private citizens and things like that. So it gets really scary, and I'm actually enjoying every minute of looking into this stuff. So, but that was my false flag show, Chris.
Wow, it's great.
Yeah, it kind of sucked, but
I'm glad I could hang out.
It was meant to demonstrate that, a lot of people say, well, what happened to our government? Well, what do you mean what happened to it? It's been that way.
Yeah, it's a fucking disaster. It so needs to be revamped. The three-party system's useless. Or the three-party system, excuse me, the two-party system. I wish we actually had a three-party system at this point. Maybe I was just being hopeful and interjecting that. But yeah, I don't know where we go from here. As far as a country, as far as this podcast, I just don't fucking know.
Well, here's the thing. We started, I'm sure there was conspiracies back in the time of Washington and Lincoln and obviously in Kennedy's time. And then we got Watergate with Nixon, who was just not a good man.
Oh, Nixon was a piece of shit. Anybody who loved Nixon, I'm sorry, but he's a piece of shit.
And then you got Iran-Contra after that, and you got, the Iraq War, and, you got all sorts of shit that goes on behind closed doors, some with and some without the knowledge of the people who are actually supposed to be in power, and all behind the backs of the American public. And that's fucking scary, because that is not what, we believe anyway, the founding fathers were trying to do. And so we fucked it up from day one. And I'm pretty sure we'll continue to do that until, Greece falls, or Rome falls, I should say.
Wow. That was pretty that was pretty in depth. Do you have any fucking news?
Yep.
Good.
And this is the news. Now, see, that didn't work. I'm still trying to come up with a good opening and ending. But
okay.
Speaking of politics and
okay
that goes on, this is from Gawker.com. Today, and this is Gawker speaking, the New York Times reminded us that Hillary Clinton is by several light years the candidate closest to willing to disclose any information the United States government is withholding about contact with extraterrestrials. And we've talked about that on this show, so that's not the point of the article. What they want to know is what's she going to do about ghosts, really? And back when she was the first lady, and this is according to the Washington Post reporter Bob Woodward, he wrote a book in 1996 called The Choice, How Bill Clinton Won. The third year of Bill Clinton's first
he played the saxophone on Arsenio Hall.
Oh, here's another one. The Whitewater investigations and the failure of her health care reform, meaning Hillary's health care reform plan. And it was a difficult time for Hillary. So what did she do? Well, she went and swung by her New Age feminist psychologist who was named Jean Houston. She sought guidance from her hero, Eleanor Roosevelt. And of course, at the time, and still, Eleanor Roosevelt was, in fact, dead. So one afternoon, Woodward writes, Houston, who had previously been invited to Camp David, joined the Clinton, meaning Hillary, in the solarium, a sun parlor with 3 sides of glass windows perched atop the White House, blah, 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 blah. That's how I read the news nowadays. That's how I've always read the news. It was afternoon. They all sat around a circular table with several members of the First Lady's staff, in fact. One was making a tape recording of the session. They even had fresh fruit and popcorn, by the way. Houston asked Hillary to imagine Eleanor Roosevelt walking down a hall and describe her and talk with her about the possible future of the children. I don't know what the children means. Clinton did these things, and then Houston asked her to open herself up to Mrs. Roosevelt as a way of looking at her own capacities and place in history. Hillary addressed Eleanor, focusing on her predecessor's fierceness and determination, her advocacy on behalf of people in need. Hillary continued to address Eleanor, discussing obstacles, the criticism, and the loneliness from the former First Lady. Her identification with Mrs. Roosevelt was intense and personal.
And to this day, she still continues to do what 51% of the country thinks is cool.
Yep. Okay.
Her stances on shit always with that 51% or more.
Sounds a little fishy to me.
I'm just saying.
Anyway, Hillary said...
what did she say, Steve?
I don't know. You got me all flustered now.
That's what she fucking said.
I'm guessing I misnamed the person up top, but Houston would be the psychic lady type person. Somebody's messaging me on Facebook.
I often leave that open during the show.
Yeah, well, it was my phone, actually. I forgot to turn it off. Anyway, Houston suggested that Clinton should talk to Mahatma Gandhi, and Hillary actually liked that idea. And then Houston suggested she talk to Jesus Christ. And Hillary said no. I wonder why. Because, you know, that Hillary's the devil. I don't know. Maybe. She could be. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the time that Hillary Clinton spoke to dead people. Cool, huh?
Great stuff, Steve.
PopularMechanics.com. This kid, man, he found what possibly could be an ancient Mayan site. I think this is pretty cool. Next time you think there's nothing left to explore, that GPS and satellites have already discovered everything on Earth, just think about the 15-year-old kid from Canada who discovered an ancient Mayan city, the Firemouth. Ooh, that's a cool name, too. Anyway, William Gattery, I'm sorry, William, if I pronounced your name wrong, because I know you're listening tonight, became obsessed with Mayan history after the endless media drumbeat over the predictions of the end of the world in 2012. His discoveries appear to be the only worthwhile development stemming from that cesspool of clickbait. Gatteroy became curious as to why the Mayans lived where they did, often removed from natural options like rivers. He started focus on 22 Mayan constellations, began to wonder if there are any correlation with the placement of Mayan cities in Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and El Salvador.
Steve, if the cities are placed according to constellations, it's gotta be ancient aliens.
Here's what this kid did, though. He used his brain to figure out, all these archaeologists say that these things happen. They're placed in these, constellation-type configurations. So he just basically used that knowledge, and for some odd reason, nobody ever did. And that's how he found this ancient city. And I think that's pretty damn cool, 15-year-old kid can do something that archaeologists and scientists haven't been able to do.
Because he fucking thought outside the box.
Well, it's not even thinking outside the box. The information has been there.
Well, obviously it is, because nobody fucking else did it. I'd say he thought outside the box. He fucking decided. He came up with a hypothesis. He fucking checked it. He looked around, and this thing isn't for sure. They think it's a pretty good possibility that that's what he's found. But
if you look at the images, there's definitely some sort of structure.
Yeah, there's something going on there. But I love this story. All in all, like this kid, had a passion for something. He really got into it. He dug in deep, did his research. Like I said, he came up with a hypothesis that these things are placed according to a certain fucking pattern. He found it and then looked for it. I mean, and he didn't even have to go anywhere.
No, he could do it from the comfort of his own home.
Yep.
And he's 15.
Kudos to him.
I wish
fucking kid's brilliant as far as I'm concerned.
My kid's 15, and he barely knows how to, look at a map, let alone read one and figure out where things are. So, the average 15-year-old isn't going to figure this out on their own. And I don't know the kid, but it kind of gives you a sense of pride in our youth that there is maybe a little bit, a tiny bit of hope. From openminds.tv, this one's in Ohio. An Ohio witness east of Westerville reported a close encounter with a triangle UFO after getting a psychic impression to go outside.
It's a UFO, Steve.
It's a psychic UFO.
Oh, psychic.
It's a psychic UFO, Steve.
This is case number 76141 from the Mutual UFO Network. Witness reporting database. The incident occurred at 10:05 p.m. on September 14, 2015, but wasn't reported until, May 1st of this year, which is just a few days ago. He observed, or she, doesn't say, observed the same bright light approaching from the north that I had seen a few nights prior. I had no camera with me. The witness stated. They didn't put the in there. I did that.
Oh, wow.
The craft entered my frame of... I didn't know if you'd figure that out or not. The craft entered my frame of vision from the west, skimming the treetops, turned 90 degrees on a dime, and the craft was moving directly at me. It had a bunch
too
of
bad it
lights
didn't
and
hit
shit
him.
on it. Yeah. I'm going to skip over.
Been
because,
a much better story. Man/woman in hospital. Well, because we don't know which it is. In hospital.
Skip over the
because UFO smacked them in the head.
I'm going to skip over the description because it's basically the same description of every triangle UFO.
It's just that little fucking ball that he sticks the pen through in Real Men.
Anyway, so the witness said he was amazed by the sighting. He says, whoever or whatever they are allowed me to see the entire craft. I was in absolute awe.
It was the UFO, Steve.
Yes. And I wasn't the least bit frightened. I know the light mesmerized me as I stood smiling at the craft approaching me. If it were any lower, I could have hit it with a rock as it passed overhead. I was dead center with the brilliant red belly light. See, it had a red light on the bottom. If they wanted to abduct me, they could have. As it was about to exit our property, the only sound it made was a low crackling sound.
Because they were like, yes, please, stick something in my ass. I'm bored tonight.
Because, he's a sciencey type person, apparently. He said, this struck me as a total anti-gravity craft. I don't know how he knows that, but from if they didn't abduct him and take him aboard and tell him that, he just guessed it. So that's it. That's the triangle UFO that's psychically controlled.
Yeah.
The end.
Excellent. And based on my observations of the craft, I would judge that it was an anti-gravity vehicle. I have no scientific training background whatsoever. I work at a mill. I'm a janitor.
That's the news, Chris.
I'm a janitor, but I'm pretty sure that it was an anti-gravity craft. I clean shitters. But based on my experience, shit floats.
When and how did I get unfriended by Steven Strufert and now refriended? Yeah, we'll talk about that after the show, Chris.
Oh. What about Mick West? Are you guys friends?
I should be.
I wish you would. I could use a new newsman. This has been the Fortean Slip, episode 114. The Where Do We Go From Here episode. If you like this shit, hit the little thumbs up button. If you don't, hit the little thumbs down button. As always, share this shit around. Check out Dred Funn at dredfunn.com and at YouTube/Dred Funn. Check out Matt Knapp at bigfootcrossroads.com. I'm gonna actually say this tonight, Steve. For real. I don't want to get your hopes up or anything.
All right.
But if you'd like to check out Bob, you can go to youtube.com/parrot breakdown. See ya.